We'll begin in 2 minutes. Hi, Brandon. Can you hear us okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Hi, Sean. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order a special council meeting of Monday, February 23rd, 2026. Everyone that can, please rise for the playing of the national anthem. Grimsby is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendourong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and the town of Grimsby stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that the agenda for the February 23rd, 2026 council meeting be approved. All in favor? That's carried. We will now move into the public meeting regarding Grimsby Official Plan Review Project. The premise of this public meeting is to provide the opportunity for the public to provide input on the draft official plan. I would like to stress that there have been no decisions or recommendations made by council or planning staff on the draft official plan. This meeting is conducted in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw. All participants are asked to conduct themselves with decorum and respect and to provide the opportunity for all members of the public to express their opinion in an environment of tolerance on all points of view and free of intimidation. The intent is to create a venue to encourage people to participate in the process and provide their input. This meeting is held under Section 17 and 26 of the Planning Act. It is important to note that the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing is the final approval authority for the plan. Following the decision of Council to adopt the official plan, the plan will be submitted to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing for approval. Where the Minister is the approval authority, the official plan is not subject to appeals. If you wish to be notified of the future decision, you must submit a written request to the Town of Grimsby, including your name and the address to which such notice should be sent. Written comments are also encouraged and must be submitted to the Town of Grimsby Planning Department, 160 Livingston Avenue, Grimsby, Ontario, L3M 0J5, or by emailing grimsbyop@grimsby.ca, referencing the official plan review. Unless indicated otherwise, all submissions, including personal information, will become part of the public record and will be included as an appendix to the staff recommendation report. Staff in attendance include Kirsten McCauley, Director of Planning, Lauren Burkhart, Policy Planner. Consultants from O2 Planning and Design, including Ute, Maya, and Alexis, are present. Tonight we will start with the consultants from O2 Planning and Design providing a presentation outlining the process and an overview of the draft official plan, followed by an opportunity for the registered delegates to ask questions and provide inputs. If you would like to speak to this meeting and did not register, please add your information to the I would like to speak forms, and Walter has them by him over to the left of me. If you would like to sign up to receive further information about this project, please add your information to one of the email sign-up sheets also available in this room. Each participant will be called in order and will be provided 10 minutes to speak. Each presenter may speak only once. If you hear your comment presented by someone else, please do not duplicate the remarks. All of the comments are being recorded and will be taken into consideration. When you are called, we ask that you state your name and address. Persons addressing council shall confine their remarks to the business at hand and shall direct their comments or questions to the chair. Staff are taking notes of all the questions asked this evening. At the end of the delegations, the consultant would be asked to respond to all of the questions and comments raised. If you feel that your questions have not been responded to this evening, you can email our planning department at planning@grimsby.ca. I'll call on the consultants from O2 Planning and Design to give a presentation. Good evening.
All right. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Alexis Beal, and I'm here with Ute Maya Giambattista on behalf of O2 Planning and Design. We're here as part of the statutory public meeting for the town's draft official plan. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to provide an overview of the draft official plan, share what we heard through the engagement processes, and outline the main directions in the plan before it moves into the next stage of review. So if you go to the next slide, I'll start by briefly walking through the agenda for this presentation. We'll begin with the key milestones in the official plan review process. Then I'll provide a short overview of the policy framework that the draft official plan is required to follow. And I will also highlight what's included in the draft official plan and summarize any public engagement activities. From there, I will pass it off to Ute, who will discuss the main pillars and the town structure, and finish with an overview of the key themes and next steps. If you go to the next slide, this slide shows how tonight's meeting fits into the broader multi-year official plan review process. Phase 1 focused on visioning, Phase 2 on policy directions, Phase 3 on preparing the plan, and Phase 4 is about the draft official plan. We're now in Phase 4, which is including the statutory public meeting. After this phase, we will make refinements to the draft official plan before moving toward council adoption and then ministry approval in 2026. Next slide. Thank you. This slide provides a bit more detail on the timing of each phase of work and engagement. So Phase 1 engagement happened in 2023. Phase 2 took place in 2024, and the draft official plan was prepared in 2025. Sorry about that. Looks like I'm on the wrong slide here. Give me one quick moment. My notes seem to have gotten jumbled. Okay, here we go. From the policy and plan review, the draft official plan is required to align and be consistent with provincial and regional policy. From a provincial standpoint, this includes the Planning Act, the Provincial Planning Statement, the Greenbelt Plan, and the Niagara Escarpment Plan. From a regional standpoint, the Niagara Region official plan serves as the town's upper tier official plan, and applicable policies and schedules from the region have been incorporated into the town's draft official plan. And next slide. Feedback from phases 1 and 2, as well as input from agencies, town staff, and council has been included in the draft official plan. Policies have been updated and simplified to make the document clearer and more consistent. Secondary plans, including Kemp and Mountain Road, the Winston Road neighborhood, and the GO Station area, have been integrated into the main text of the draft official plan, while Grimsby Beach remains as its own attachment and secondary plan. The draft official plan has also been coordinated with other major projects, including the Transportation Master Plan and the Parks Master Plan. In terms of public engagement, for the Phase 3 public engagement, which is the most recent, it focused directly on the draft official plan. In October 2025, the draft official plan was circulated to the public agencies and the province for review and feedback. The project team also met with interested parties, and quick reference materials were provided on the Let's Talk Grimsby project page. As part of this phase, we also held 3 public information centers, giving residents a chance to view the materials, speak with our project team. The first session focused on the draft official plan. The second brought together the draft official plan and the draft parks plan, and the third brought together the draft official plan and the draft transportation master plan. Several written comments have been received as part of this phase, and are currently being reviewed and considered as part of the final refinements to the draft plan. Phase 1 engagement took place in fall 2023 and focused on understanding community values, priorities, and overall directions for Grimsby's future. Key themes that emerged included housing affordability, transportation, parks and public spaces, growth and development, and the downtown. Phase 2 engagement took place between January and September 2024 and focused on testing policy directions for major official plan topic areas, including housing, neighborhoods, the downtown, mobility, climate change, and work and workplaces. Engagement methods included town talks, walk and talk tours, a downtown charrette, online mapping, quick polls, and a public information center held jointly with the parks and transportation master plans. Overall, feedback supported moderate intensification, more housing options, improvements to transit and active transportation, protection of downtown character and heritage, enhanced public spaces, and stronger climate resilience. I will now pass it off to Ute to discuss the pillars of the official plan, the town structure, and key themes and next steps.
Good afternoon. So I will walk you through the second part of the actual content of the official plan. So the pillars of an official plan as best practices and also elements that are enshrined in provincial policy and regional policy include mobility, connectivity, and inclusivity for all modes of transportation. There's sustainability, environmental sustainability, economically and cultural, as well as placemaking, identity, and authenticity, which in places like Grimsby pertains to the built heritage background. So all combined form the basis in which an official plan gets to be written. So next slide. The town structure, in our opinion, is one of the most seminal components of an official plan. It sets not only the policy that supports the map that you're seeing in front of you, it sets the direction on how the municipality is to grow, where is to focus enhancement of transportation elements, enhancement of open space elements. So the new official plan will be integrating secondary plans that have been in place into one single town structure where you can see the PMTSA area is scheduled to receive some intensification. The downtown is its own place. We have a series of town or neighborhood nodes of different scales that are connected by your road system. And those are kind of the spines and the framework that define how the town gets to be enjoyed and grow in the future. So from this map, we came up with several official plan themes, and that's the structure of the actual document. So if you go to the next slide, you will see that we have an area a chapter that speaks to the protected major transit station area, the PMTSA. There's a chapter that's focused on the downtown and how development and growth is to be managed, housing and affordability, neighborhoods, the works and workplaces, places and spaces, community facilities that come and support the residents, moving around, all sorts of transportation-related policies, climate change and sustainability, as well as environment and agriculture. So next slide, please. So we are referring to the PMTSA. The area revolves around the GO station. It's usually defined by the province via a radius of 800 meters from the transit station. It aligns with the provincial requirements of requiring an intensity of about 150 people and jobs per hectare in an area that's immediately adjacent to an area of a major transit station. And it's divided into 4 important character planning areas, as you will see in the next plan, where you will see in the next slide an area immediately surrounding the GO station, usually within a 200 meters radius, that will concentrate the highest intensity with the intent of support transit. Then you will see a surrounding area in the lighter color that will transition then into the surrounding context. It will be less dense. And then you have a TOD, innovation and incubation kind of belt. That's where we currently have employment lands, and it's supposed to encourage and enhance employment opportunities. So you have the many layers that go and inform a place into residential as well as employment opportunities. So that there's a whole chapter on that particular area. Then we have another chapter, next slide, on focusing on the downtown and how downtown is to manage growth that's to come. So the downtown is to continue to be the central hub of the community and activity in town. Outside the industrial areas, the downtown will also be generating one of the most significant and high concentration of jobs in the town. It's divided into four areas that inform the structure of how we experience the downtown, and the preservation and reuse of heritage assets and buildings is something that goes into how we are thinking of the downtown. So if you flip to the next slide, you will see how the idea of the main street is reinforced with a downtown Main Street policy area. It's extended to allow a continuation of 4-story street wall, so that defines your Main Street. You have lands immediately behind this Main Street that encourage further intensification up to 6 stories. And then you have an interstitial land between the highway and the railroad line that still has employment areas that will continue to be preserving the current capacity to continue to support employment opportunities. The housing and affordability chapter in the official plan really targets about 30% of all new housing dwelling units to be constructed to an affordable housing level. We are continuing to work with the team to define how that gets implemented, following the steps of what's recommended by the region. The town has also implemented the additional residential unit policies that allows secondary dwelling units within a single attached, and that also goes into supplemented the type of units that residents and aging in place and new youth needs as they go and move into the community. All the policies in the draft OP support a greater mix of housing and commercial uses together, whether it's vertically in the same building or in immediate proximity, because it's also based, as you will remember, on the principle of mobility and connectivity. So ideally, you have retail and your daily needs service within a walking distance. On the chapter of work and workplaces next, the new definition of employment lands introduced by the PPS is incorporated into the draft official plan. The official plan policies protect existing employment lands along the QEW for future job growth and increases the focus on tourism, education, and research in an attempt to also accommodate for the ever-emerging changes in how we use our employment lands and encourage work creation. The chapter of neighborhoods really follows on a broad mix of residential and commercial uses at different sizes. They form the majority of the town. It concentrates areas of density and mixing in specific uses, like in areas like the nodes you will see along the main corridors. The places and spaces chapter in the next slide really speaks to the need of incorporating existing heritage features as well as archaeologic findings into the development and in the preservation of the history of a place. It places the policies of the Nayara Region Official Plan and incorporates what's pertinent to the town. It requires a new development, incorporate viewpoints, landmarks, parks, and open space, natural areas, and public art into the development, so they continue to contribute to the neighborhood in which they are being planned. The draft OP will also reflect more recent changes in the legislation in the ability of the town to regulate design and build form, which is something that's continuously being revised by the province, so it's something that we continue to work on. As well as far as community facilities, the community facilities and parks that will be enhanced and grow through the time horizon of 2051 will incorporate a series of spaces that are to encourage activity throughout the year. The PPS in 2024, that's the provincial document, requires climate change considerations to be incorporated into the design of any new facility. So an alignment between the draft official plan and the Parks Master Plan, which is currently, I believe it has been finalized, will also take place. The environment agriculture component, or chapter of the official plan, has the schedules reflect the 2017 Green Plan update to include previously delineated protected countryside areas, now as prime agricultural areas. Includes policies on value-added and agricultural-related uses that may be permitted consistent with the Greenbelt Plan. Once again, all focus on creating and maintaining work creation within the town. The environmental policies of the Nayara Region Official Plan are carried into this new draft, and the environmental protection policies must be read in conjunction when applying for development. So there's a consistency between the official plan and regional policy. Climate change and sustainability, the chapter speaks to the town to support compact urban forms that reduce the need of additional travel and multiple modes of transportation to include pedestrians within the urban settlement boundary. It refers to climate change policies that are part of the Nayara official plan and are incorporated into this draft as far as green infrastructure, considering climate change in the design of new infrastructure like stormwater. And the town's corporate climate action plan currently underway will be incorporated into the town's corporate operations. Finally, moving around, the chapter on moving around will align with the new transportation master plan that currently the town is undertaking. It will create a transportation network for a variety of travel options, including future increased transit service, protecting good movements network along the highway, and includes the expansion of pedestrian and cycling network within the town boundary. As far as next steps, we endeavor to continue to consolidate and review all the comments received. So we will work through March in a final update and revision of the draft plan based on comments received today. In April, we intend to release this as a draft official plan for circulation. And in June, we intend to seek council adoption and ministry adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Ute and Alexa. Now we'll open the floor to questions from regular delegates or registered delegates. The first is Greg Middleton. Greg, please come to the podium and state your address for the record.
Greg Middleton, good evening. 241 Englehart Road, Grimsby, Ontario. I'm here to discuss our concerns regarding the inclusion of the Grimsby Air Park in Grimsby's official plan. Several key partners and myself represent a growing list of opponents to the operation of this air park in our community. We thank you for your time and consideration in this regard. We are concerned about the inclusion of this air park in the town's official plan for the following reasons. Notification. Despite the extensive efforts this whole planning process has involved, no direct or written notification of this inclusion was provided to adjacent and nearby impacted property owners. We feel that given the impact this facility can have on our safety, security, enjoyment of property and property values, the town has an obligation to directly notify impacted stakeholders. This is reminiscent of how this Greenbelt property was reclassified from rural to utility with no notice provided other than a posting in a local flyer. In the past, all of us have received notifications, written notifications for things like fencing on adjacent properties. We are disappointed that this matter didn't warrant the same treatment. We were actually lucky to notice this inclusion in a Google search query, as we, not anticipating this, would have otherwise not reviewed the lengthy official plan proactively. With respect to the notice provided by this official plan process, suffice it to say that many people are in many respects technically incapable of, do not possess the necessary knowledge or time for that matter, which is what I found out, to review a 525-page omnibus-style document looking for things that may or may not impact them directly. So it's our opinion that in the event of a specific change such as this that has a clear and direct impact on specific stakeholders, that direct communications clearly indicating those changes be provided and an inclusive, focused public input process completed. Number 2, precedent setting. We're afraid that this may set a dangerous precedent with respect to any future air parks that decide to establish themselves in Grimsby. One just did so in Smithville, and the town could not do anything to stop that. The Aeronautical Act is clear that anyone with a modest amount of effort can register and use their fields as an aerodrome, regardless of its land use classification. Will the town also reclassify those properties to UT as well, or include them in the official plan? The inclusion of this air park in the official plan is as unnecessary as the reclassification of this greenbelt land was from RU to UT was. And that didn't play out very well. Number 3, this air park has a track record of harassing local residents in unsafe operations, including the operation of an unlicensed flight school, which was subsequently shut down by the province. We are concerned for our safety. As recently as last week, what looked like a homemade parachute aircraft was witnessed flying lower than 25 feet over private property in a manner that could be considered out of control. A private helicopter was witnessed operating in the area for 45 minutes at 2 a.m. in the morning. This is anything but peaceful use, which happens coincidentally to be a condition of the Sobey Road Allowance lease agreement between the town and the air park owners. The management, when interviewed by CHCH, publicly stated on the record that the altitude of planes passing over Mud Street is being 300 to 400 feet. It should be clear from the photo that I provided with the package I sent in to the town clerk that it's not 300 to 400 feet, it's more like 30 to 40 feet. So management at the air park are disingenuous at the best. Our 4th concern is legitimization. Inclusion of this air park in the official plan is an attempt at legitimization, and this contradicts the petition endorsed and put forward by the town of Grimsby with council support to the Minister of Transport by way of MP Dean Allison in 2022. It was agreed upon and endorsed by the council of the day that this air park is not a compatible use in this land use in this area, considering its proximity to residential and community gathering places, where safe flight altitudes of 1,000 feet cannot be attained. The town of West Lincoln, also a stakeholder, endorsed the very same petition for the very same valid reasons. So our discontent with this inclusion should come as no surprise. Number 5, the inclusion of this air park in the official plan can potentially expose the town to potential litigation resulting from the operation of this recreational facility, the risks it presents, and the means by which that was accomplished. At the very end of the day, the town will be permitting what can be considered a very dangerous and disruptive activity. Does it really want to be complicit in that? Please refer to the photo I provided in the package. Does that look like a peaceful and safe use of that property? And number 6, and this is the most important thing, there's no reason to do this. There's no benefit to the town. This air park can currently operate, whether it is in the official plan or not. So why do it at all? What is the motivation to do so when it is clearly such a contentious issue? Air parks operating within built-up areas, unless owned and operated by some level of government, are nothing but trouble. Ask Burlington Council how much value has been added to their community and how much legal cost has been attached to that airport. Ask them how that airport has sidestepped municipal and regional control by way of its interjurisdictional immunity. Have we not already seen that done with this private recreational entity already? Additionally, the restrictions called for in the plan largely unenforceable and therefore meaningless. In closing, this is not a matter of who predates who. There are many homes and gathering places that predate this air park in its previous private form and most certainly in its most recent form. The Geetseo Club being one of them have had to halt wedding ceremonies due to air traffic. 2 of my properties in this area predate this air park. My neighbors' homes predate this air park. The fact is, this operation should never have been allowed to operate there in the first place. And this is not a matter of us having anything to do against pilots in their hobby. It is about their recreational activities negatively impacting our safety, security, and enjoyment of property, which are all protected by our Constitution and Charter. We would appreciate it if the town can address the questions we posed, and also, for the reasons mentioned above and more, if all reference to this air park be removed from the draft official plan, and that any future changes related to this property be directly communicated to impacted stakeholder taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Up next, we have Bridget Malloy. Bridget, please come to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and neighbors. My name is Bridget Malloy. I live in Ward 3, specifically at 49 Ontario Street, and I want to thank staff for the work that's gone into the draft official plan and the challenge of planning for growth in a constrained community like Grimsby. My concern tonight is whether this plan clearly and predictably communicates where different forms of intensification are intended to go and what level of certainty residents can rely on when reading it. Streets like John Street fall within the urban settlement area and are identified within the corridor framework as places where intensification is anticipated. In principle, that makes sense. However, the draft official plan does not appear to establish firm, enforceable limits on height and scale for neighborhood corridors that sit beside low-rise residential and heritage-adjacent contexts. Instead, I'm of the opinion that the plan relies heavily on compatibility, transition, and built form language, and much of that language uses the word should and not the word shall. The plan also clarifies that should is indeed discretionary. From a resident's perspective, this matters. It becomes difficult to know what outcomes are truly required versus what is only encouraged. The land use framework enables medium density housing, but medium density is defined broadly enough to allow for wide interpretation. At the same time, height is not capped within the land use designations, and the built form section provides guidance without clear limits for neighborhood corridors. The implementation section also anticipates site-specific rezonings. That's normal, but it reinforces why the official plan must be written with clear, enforceable direction, so rezonings do not gradually undermine the plan's intended structure. I'm also concerned that the plan does not clearly require council to evaluate cumulative impacts along a single street over time. Residents experience change as a pattern, not as isolated decisions. Finally, infrastructure policies appear to assume that infrastructure will follow intensification, rather than requiring key constraints to be resolved upfront. On older neighborhood streets, this creates concern about traffic, parking, and servicing being treated as afterthoughts. My request tonight, respectfully, is this. I'm asking council to strengthen the draft official plan so it more clearly distinguishes between areas intended for the highest intensity development and neighborhood corridors where modest intensification, transition, pedestrian scale, and heritage context are stated objectives. Specifically, that means 1, stronger shall language for transition and compatibility in neighborhood corridors. 2, cleaner built form direction to prevent tower scale outcomes when they are not intended. 3, policies that require consideration of cumulative impacts and precedent over time. Residents, respectfully, need an official plan that creates predictable outcomes with enforceable transition and compatibility policies for neighborhood corridors, not discretionary guidance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bridget. Our last registered delegate is Renzo Martier, who is online this evening. Renzo, please state your name and address for the record. And can you turn your camera on, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Renzo.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Renzo Martiri. I reside at 18 McCoy Court in Richmond Hill. I am here today representing the owners group and for our project at Ontario and John, which is known as the Cooper House. Through this request, through our submission, we have a slide that we prepared, a PDF. Hopefully you have it. A PowerPoint presentation. If you can go to the next slide, please. So through this submission, I would like to ask council to modify the draft plan. We'd like to recognize that Grimsby via rail station as part of the major transit station. We'd also like to introduce site-specific planning tools within the downtown opportunity to absorb the reallocate forecast growth to the subject lands. We also like to ensure that other planning tools such as CIP and site-specific policies support the planning role in the development of the mixed use. Next. So you see as our site, we are close to the Via Rail. This is a 2-acre site approximately, and we're looking to do a mixed-use development that aligns ourselves with the official plan. Next slide, please. We've had to date now 2 interactions with the public. Well, first with the farmers market back in the end of summer of 2025, and also a pre-consultant meeting in December of 2025 with good feedback from the members that showed up and also from the idea of how we can create a plan and a project that will work with the downtown core. Next slide, please. As you can see with the draft official plan and the land use, we're within the idea and the structure of the official plan. We'd like to continue this, but be more specific on the sites for our site specific. Next. So right now with our policies and what we believe that should be with the official plan, we like to create a secondary transit station area due to the Via Rail. This would be a good and be well adapted for the downtown corridor to create more traffic in the sense of public access. Next slide, please. Give you a little idea of what our project is. We have a project that we like to develop with purpose-built rental and with commercial, with office component. The residents at the 2 interactions with the thing have given us ideas that they are interested in this type of project to create a more vibrant downtown feel. Our project will support growth and also will support the future of Grimsby, and is consistent with the official plan designation. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, we'd like to recognize that the adjacent rail downtown corridor, support from the planning for a large downtown redevelopment area, to ensure implement tools such as zoning, CIP, and site specific for the project, align with the planning functions in the strategic growth plan, and provide enhanced height and density for strategic growth in specific site areas. Thank you, Mayor and members of council, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Renzo. Now I open the floor to members of the public. Walter, are there more people signed up on that list?
Thank you, Mayor. There's a Carol McNamee that's signed.
All right, Carol McNamee, you can come up to the podium and just state your name and address. Thanks, Carol.
Hi there, I'm Carol McNamee, and I reside at 10 John Street, and it is exactly where the Cooper Haas, across from us where they want to build, and our concern is the height. We've heard 15 stories, we've heard 17 stories, and nobody wants it in that area. It's a very small street. We have one sidewalk on one side. I don't know how they're going to do the infrastructure, but it's quite scary when you think about the height of the building. We heard over 300 units in the 17-story. Now, I don't know if that's confirmed or if it's dropped to 15, but that's a lot. And there's no parking now. I don't know where that's going to be. They had mentioned, I think, before it could be underground. That's kind of a concern as well with the drilling and affecting all the neighbors in the neighborhood. I've heard already about the building on Main Street where they have the Heritage Building and they're drilling there, and the people that all live in behind said their homes are all shaking. So there's a lot of concerns with what's happening with all this building. I had a few notes. I wasn't expected to be talking. I apologize. Will taxes be affected? A lot of people are asking us that. How is this being paid for? Is it taxes? Is this also development part of the Build Canada homes to fast-track affordable housing? Are these all geared to income homes that are being put in this tall building that they want to do? And why that high? What's wrong with 4 or 5 stories? We're a small community. We don't want 15, 17 stories on a little side street. Police force. We have no police here on weekends as it is, and increased crime. Apparently all the calls are dispatched from Niagara Falls. So will we have increased police presence here? And yeah, I think that was about it. Like I said, I didn't expect to speak, but these are my concerns. And after hearing them speak from Cooper Haas, yeah, we'd like to be involved more as neighbors and community as to what's happening ongoing with this.
All right, your comments today are about a specific application that hasn't yet come to council. So, yeah, it has not come to council.
On the height and whatnot?
We will, once we see the proposal, once it comes to council, then first it will come to planning, and
Okay.
but we're not at that stage yet.
But I'd like you to keep in mind the displeasure, and when that does happen, that
Yeah,
don't want
and
that
again, I
kind of-
reiterate that it hasn't come to council.
okay.
So
But when it does, you'll think about
when it
that.
does, we'll
Yeah.
certainly be well aware of it.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
All right, seeing we have no additional speakers, if there is anyone on the floor that would like to come up to the podium, state their name if they do have additional comments, I'll call that out now. Seeing none. As a reminder that members of council will be able to speak to the information report under item 8.1 following the meeting. I'd also like to note that written correspondence submitted by members of the public included on the agenda will form part of the official record. Thank you for your participation in the public meeting. The consultants and the staff will take your feedback. Please contact staff at Grimsby op@grimsby.ca if you have any additional comments or questions about the draft official plan. This public meeting is now over, and we will now move to regular business of council. Thank you. Have a good evening. Can I have a mover and seconder to approve the previous minutes? Moved by Councillor Corstangi, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that the council minutes of February 9th, 2026 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. All right, up next, we have discussion reports. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the official plan information report on the floor for discussion? All right, Councillor Corstangi moved, seconder, Councillor DeFlavio. Questions or comments from council? Councillor Frake, I see your hands up. You're muted. Councillor Frake, you're still muted.
You hear me now?
Yes, now it's good.
Okay, I'm going back and forth here. I had put my hand up to second the motion, not to speak. Thank you.
All right, Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I did send a few questions to our staff, and I know it was just today, so if you want to respond in a more timely manner, if you're not prepared to answer those questions, I completely understand. But there are a few questions that I have that probably could be answered tonight. First, I do want to thank staff for all the work that they put into this, and to the consultants for all the work they put into it. Having been involved in official plan processes before, I know that it's quite an arduous process. So thanks for all the work that everybody's done on this. I'm generally supportive of intensification, but we know we need more supply. We know we need more affordability. Those are all things that were mentioned in the presentation. We also know that we're largely built out and have very little greenfield remaining. So my questions are not about whether we grow, because it's about how we grow. So first is infrastructure related. Again, if you don't have all the details to respond to these questions, I understand. But when it comes to water, wastewater, stormwater, road capacity, have we stress tested those things against the ultimate built-out scenarios contemplated in the plan? I'm especially concerned about the PMTSA area and how. Well, I'll let people respond and then follow up, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor DeFlavio. Our project manager and planning director managed to get in touch with other staff members. Just to further inform or further answers a component of your question, the region and our partners here at the municipality have been integral to the work we are conducting to ensure that the infrastructure is in place. I think one key indicator and reasoning behind the Hampson work that was commissioned as we were conducting the official plan was to actually check the numbers and really understand how much people was potentially coming into specific areas, particularly the PMTSA area and then the downtown area. So that trigger the need to understand numbers to then further feedback into the transportation plan that's currently taking place, as well as negotiations with the region and further operation infrastructure plans that the municipality needs to consider as we prepare for growth. But we'll let Kirsten further supplement any other info if as needed.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have been working very closely with our staff at the town, as well as with regional staff, to look at the infrastructure requirements related to our major growth areas or our centers, as well as our nodes and corridors. So I do just want to highlight and reinforce that we have been looking at those pieces, specifically with the Transportation Master Plan, as well as additional work that will come out of our infrastructure review.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So, and I appreciate that. Although we don't know what we need until we need it. So the Transportation Master Plan considers a lot of things, but anyway, the second thing I wanted to ask about was sequencing. So when I see 28 stories and 22 stories at Casablanca and the South Service Road, that obviously concerns me. That we're not talking about Etobicoke, we're not talking about building next to the Gardiner, we're talking about a place that has very limited area for growth and on a GO station line that at maximum capacity will not come near the kinds of volume that you would get in a higher density area. So I guess as far as sequencing is concerned, are the highest intensities in the major transit area tied in any way to confirmed GO station delivery and post-construction of a GO station? What I mean by that, and I hope that that's clear, what I mean, I want to make sure that things can't, that these 28-story buildings can't be built. Well, I would like them not to be built at all. You know, I think a more reasonable size and density for that spot makes more sense. But I especially want to make sure that they don't get built until after the GO station is completed, so that way, if the justification being used for building this increased density, which will probably have very minimal parking, a lot of things that are inappropriate for that area, in my opinion, I want to make sure that they do not occur, that the construction of the housing does not occur prior to the transit that's being used to justify that housing. So I don't know if you can answer questions regarding sequencing, if it's something that's outside of our control because it's Metrolinx and provincial control, like those, those are all things that I don't know the answer to. So it's probably like, no, Nick, you're an idiot. That's not something that we could put in the official plan because it's out of our control. But whatever answer you could give me to that, I would appreciate.
Thank you for the question through you, Mr. Mayor, and we also have Sean Small here to further complement any of the questions I may have. When it comes to PMTSA areas that are outside, areas that already have the assets built, like a station, there's always a framework that goes into place. We don't have a direct control on when, obviously, the station will be built. In an interesting pattern, I guess, the market responds to the station. The moment the station or the announcement of the construction of a station usually comes, then the market reacts to it. However, we know that regardless of when the station may be actually be built, that the framework to manage growth, when that comes to be, needs to be in place. Usually it's nice to have it beforehand, regardless, just to ensure that when the announcements are made, usually development interest appears quite quickly and in tandem, and it's good to have the plan in place. But so far as I know, there are many other municipalities that have PMTSAs where the stations have not been built. For example, we in a separate assessment, we were working in a station in Oshawa. It's not until the station is actually built and Metrolinx makes the announcement that even with development interests in place, nobody will move until announcements are made. So, and that's happening in a number of other stations. So.
Thank you. That's important information. Next questions regarding, through you, Mayor, regarding housing mix. As we know, we have limited greenfield land left. So I'd be interested in understanding how the plan supports what's referred to often as the missing middle. So in communities like Grimsby, duplexes, townhomes, low-rise forms play an important role in downsizing, people moving out of there. If we know that we don't have big open farms left to build detached homes anymore. So what we need to do is encourage people who are empty nesters to move out of their house that's too big for them and move into something that's more appropriate. So how does this plan consider, that kind of gentle intensification? I want to ensure that, because we've traditionally only had two forms of housing, that's single detached and condominiums, and that stuff in the middle is probably what's going to be the solution to some of our housing issues. So just how that's addressed in general in the official plan, if you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the big steps that the municipality took was implemented the accessory dwelling unit. And the other big step that potentially this draft OP can bring forward is the way we have now reorganized the town structure. Because many of those smaller town nodes and town corridors are envisioned to support that missing middle form. Usually a four-story permission unlocks the potential to many combinations for fourplex, fiveplex, depending on the size of the lot to accommodate for snow storage and parking and whatnot. The four-story really unlocks many of those other combinations that are right in the middle between a single detached and an apartment building, which includes stacks, back-to-backs, fourplexes, all within no more than 4 stories. Usually they don't require elevators. They can be built from wood, which makes them more affordable, quicker to build. So as part of that framework that we are putting forward of town nodes and corridors, we're hoping that in areas where you have immediate access to local amenities, daily needs, open spaces, as well as transportation corridor, we are encouraging and permitting that missing middle. And that's the vision, to kind of focus some of those permissions along key corridors and along key nodes. So.
Last one, Mayor. Thank you for your patience. I will send more because I have more, but last one that I wanted to ask tonight was, so the 30% affordable housing target is really important, I think, to everybody. I'm happy to see it in there. My concern is always, how is it going to be implemented? How's it going to be secured? How's it going to be monitored? Because it's one thing to write it into an official plan, but, this might be a question for Kirsten, for our planners, how do we make sure that that's actually what happens? And are there other municipalities that are doing something similar to that? And I guess, how are they enforcing it and how are they monitoring it? Because what you don't want is a make-work project for our planning staff, but you know what I mean? Like, where they're constantly chasing after these things, but we do want to ensure that that 30% is met. I mean, that's a great goal. And of course, how do you define affordability and all those other things are questions. It opens up a huge can of worms. But if you could just speak to the monitoring, or somebody can, and how we're going to make sure that that's implemented.
Thank you for the question, and through the mayor. So it is a great question, because affordability is a big challenge for communities these days. One of the things coming out of the official plan will be a monitoring plan. So we'd be looking for those indicators so that we can collect data on that and monitor as we go forward. We will also be looking at, following the adoption of the official plan, other tools that we can utilize to address and encourage affordability within our community. So those could include looking at our zoning provisions, looking at the housing stock that we have available and how we could encourage more affordable housing through new developments. We have recently had some discussions about affordable housing agreements, which would lock affordable housing in place as part of a site plan agreement. So those are a couple of the tools that we would look at for encouraging affordability going forward.
If I may add, we are also, as we continue to shape the content of that chapter, we need to also revisit the idea of inclusionary zoning, especially in MTSA areas. If there is a silver lining to the increased intensity that the province wants to see along main transit stations, is the potential to include inclusionary zoning, which takes a much formal and stronger stance as far as requiring affordable units, and affordable within the definition of the province, but still. So that's something that we will look into it to continue to build that chapter.
All right, Councillor Howe, then Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, and I'm not sure if it's Kirsten. Let's stick on that 30%. And you just referenced it there at the end about a definition from the province. I have not seen a definition of what affordability is, what that housing. I mean, it's a great motherhood statement, pie in the sky, but to me, it doesn't have walls on it, so we know what it is. Is there a definition for it? What's it mean?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have it in front of me, Councillor, but there is a definition of the income that's considered affordable, and we can provide that to Council too. There are other terms that have not been defined by the province, but there's the income considered to be affordable that we can provide you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. One more? Thank you. And this may be very naive, but we talked about the agriculture and whatnot. But can we say in an official plan, and I tried to read through some of it today, where it talks about nuisance crops, shall I call them, or skunk farms, in other words, cannabis, like, can that be written in that, we don't need this, you just have to be downwind of the service road or downwind of a couple up on the hill? It'd be just like, it's no different than someone raising skunks, but, the skunk only does it for a little while. But is that possible that it's written in, or is that me just dreaming?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. We can take that back and take a look at it. I know some municipalities have taken steps in terms of like buffering or distances between facilities, but we take the point and we'll take it back for consideration.
Thank you.
Sean, I noticed your hand was up. Do you still have something to add?
Well, coming back to the affordable housing, we do have a definition in the draft official plan. And so right now, the definition based on if it were market housing, then it would be housing for which the purchase price results in an annual accommodation costs which do not exceed 30% of their gross annual household income. Or if their purchase price is at least 10% below the average purchase price of a resale unit in that regional market. And then similarly for rental housing, that 30% of the gross annual income also would be part of the definition. Now, this affordable housing is definitely geared more towards the general term affordable housing, and that would be applied for market housing. Obviously, if there's a non-market housing provider, then that entire product would be based on their affordable housing definition, which would coincide with the province's rules. So,
thank you. Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to ask a few questions. one, I want to pick up on something my colleague said about gentle intensification. You know, if we have to grow or we die. I mean, that is a reality. And so growth in itself is not bad. But what tools do we have to say 17 stories on John Street is not, you can't even consider something like that. You know, when you've got all kind of little single-story houses around there, single-story library, like what tools do we have to say, you know, you can't put downtown Toronto in the middle of our small town on a side street? Because, you know, every time we sort of balk at something and we go to OLT, we lose. So, and sort of, you know, because maybe we don't have the rules that are, or the official plan that's strong enough to say, we don't want this. So where do we find, you know, where are the tools that, as that one woman said, give us the shall, you know, as opposed to should, that really gives us some strength so that we can limit some of this stuff, which is just, it is completely inappropriate. We understand there's pressures, and we're willing to, and, you know, Grimsby has gone a long way in meeting the numbers that have been, I'll say, imposed on us. Like we've done our bit. And I'm not saying that, you know, we shouldn't build, because we should. So my first question is, what do we actually have any tools where we can stop things that are just so inappropriate?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think one of the strongest tools is obviously the official plan. The official plan sets the vision of the heights that a specific area is trying to enshrine. Ontario has a OLT system. That's a completely quasi-judicial forum where some of these considerations may not hold. So it's, I think, part of the solution is to have a strong official plan. Whether the height is increased at the end of the day or other permissions are granted, at least the argument and the case of having a strong vision goes a long way, sometimes with different tribunal members. It's better than not having a clear vision. But obviously, that process can upend.
So developers win at OLT 98% of the time. I read that. So OLT isn't making me feel all that comfortable. So you still haven't quite answered my question. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but what tools do we have so that you can say you will not build a 17-story building on a residential side street with 300 units that, you know, you've got parking problems already on Ontario, not parking, but traffic problems already on Ontario. Like, I mean, and, you know, when this fellow was mentioning that he wanted to have another GO stop at the Via Rail train station as somehow support for this giant intensification that he was sort of proposing, which hasn't come to council. But I mean, it's nonsense. So what are the tools that we can use to say, no, you just can't do that? No, this is what we've agreed upon. We've agreed upon growth. We think growth is good. We think growth in certain areas is good, but it has to fit in with what's already here. So what are the tools? Name me a tool, please. I could name a few tools, but name me a tool.
Well, your official plan is quite a tool, and council always has the right of refusal. The proposal has to go through the whole approval process in demonstrating all the requirements from infrastructure, whatnot. Even when that's presented and the vision doesn't comply with your official plan, councils are in their right of refusing. That's the extent of your power.
But often our planning people don't have the tools that they need to say, you can't do that. So so that's one thing. We need to build that into the official plan in a very hard, steadfast way, so that when our planning people are using our official plan, they're not being forced into something that nobody wants. So that's one thing. So, and my next.
Kirsten can add to.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for those comments, and through you, Mayor. Yes, so I would agree that the official plan is our tool. It provides our vision and our growth, and when the official plan process is complete, we will have an up-to-date official plan that's current with provincial policy as well. So that will strengthen our position in providing direction for where growth is to occur. The way that the official plan has been structured with the town structure, we have identified specific areas where we would like to see the highest amount of growth, which one of them is our protected major transit station area in our downtown. We've also provided direction for how growth is to occur in terms of scale and built form. I will say that through my review of the official plan, I've also looked at the policies and how they are coordinated. We do need to do a bit better of a job connecting the policies to make sure that we have a strong stance and where we want to see that growth to occurring.
So thank you, and let me just say, I want to see it clearly articulated in the plan, because there's growth and then there's blight, and what we don't want is blight. Now, my final question is, can we build into the plan anything like green standards, net zero? I mean, we know there's all these environmental considerations. We're putting buildings where we used to have grass. So what can we do to, we've got to start now building into not just sort of the quantity of what gets built here, but the quality and the kind of things that get built here. And we need to get that enshrined in our plan too. So can we do that? Or are we just left up to the, the desires of whatever developer? I mean, some developers I've been like quite, I don't want to slam developers, not at all, but because some have been very responsive to green and net zero. And so how can we enshrine that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the official plan, and we will take your comments back, Councillor, to further supplement and look how we can strengthen. We have a chapter on climate change and sustainability that encompasses sustainability in all phases, from how we intensify and provide all the daily needs within walking distance and mobility, as well as climate change. So we will take a second look and ensuring that we are obviously complying with the regions. So we'll look at materials. I know that the province has taken a strong stance at not identifying materials, and some of the more of a.
It's our plan.
Yes, we'll take thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. So I'm just going to start with some comments for things I'd like to see revised if possible. So similar to Councillor Vardy, I want to really strengthen this official plan. I want to take out any shoulds. So should be shall, because it's my understanding this is a little loophole for some, and I've got confirmation. I sat into a meeting and there was some talk about speaking with planning to try to get a little bit more flexibility. So that right away has me thinking that, that's a conversation that they're trying to manipulate our language. So I do want to make sure that is very strong, because, if we leave that open to interpretation, it's just going to cost us $100,000 each OLT, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to make it very clear. So that's something I would like to see. And I've been very vocal on this one particular densification area downtown. That still really is a concern to me, in that more so specifically in the LCBO area there. There doesn't seem to be any caps. If we have one major development right there, what happens if the GBF, for instance, decides they're going to build something massive in addition to other massive units? The parking and the traffic are going to be horrendous. It's already an issue. So I'd like there to be some consideration as far as capping in that specific area. There hasn't been any, I know when we look at parking considerations, we are basically just assuming that we're going to have the parking still at the Food Basics Plaza, and we know that that is, if they decide to sell that, that doesn't necessarily, we lose that parking. So it's parking that doesn't belong to us, and we're assuming that it does, and it doesn't. So that's something I would also like to be considered. As we know, the condo market has kind of collapsed a bit in Canada and specifically in the GTA. And our plan, I think in a lot of these areas, there's a minimum that needs to be built. And if townhouses and single-family homes become the preference, I don't want to leave that out. So if there's a plot of land that maybe has to be 6 stories or whatever, maybe there's some ability for people to level down a little bit, that because we don't know that the market for condos is ever going to go back to the way it was. So if the intensification is still at the GO train area, that's fine. But for those other areas, the neighborhood, the nodes and all of that, I would like to see minimums. As far as questions, I want to represent our constituents that have reached out to us. One that caught my attention was environmental assessments for specialty crops. So we had a resident point out that, with their farming for peaches and cherries, it's very dependent on the air currents from the lake up to the escarpment. And I'm not clear on whether there has been environmental assessments with the densification, and I'm not saying that, I'm opposed to it, but I want to make sure that we are having the assessments that we need, because that is supposed to be supported, and I don't want to make it where an application comes and then they have to do the environmental assessment. Do we not? So before I ask my other questions, if you can just maybe say if that's being done.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know that we are implementing the environmental and green system that has been scheduled and envisioned by the region. As far as environmental assessments, we are not conducting them as part of the official plan. We are just implementing what the region has deemed important and classified accordingly. Now, is there any further input, Sean, on what the provincial and regional regulations?
So on looking at the air currents, we did hear that comment at the most recent PIC. And so we're going to take that back and look into whether that's something we can be more specific into the policy. So that we'll take back to confirm. The other components, so we do have the policies that then highlight necessary requirements or submissions as far as reports. And so we have beefed up that list a little bit from the current OP. So that way staff can ask for a variety of reports that they deem necessary in order to make a review and decision on a particular application.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Another question had to do with our density. So just looking, I think it was, it said that we had 450 people per square kilometer in Grimsby, right? So this is, I don't know, Kirsten, if you're the one to ask. So this is all of Grimsby. So my question is, what is our density below the escarpment, which is where all of our growth really happens, because 450 skews our numbers when really it's double that, because more than double that. And with all of this intensity, I'm worried that we're pushing to like Toronto density. So I don't know if Kirsten, if you're the one to answer that one.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor. So our growth will occur below the escarpment. There is only a small portion of growth that could happen above the escarpment within the hamlet areas, and then the rest is primarily agriculture, with maybe the odd house here and there. But we will be looking at our growth at below the escarpment. I believe the draft official plan right now currently identifies the density target for the PMTSA, or the Protected Major Transit Station area, at 150, which is reflective of provincial policy. And I'll have Ute speak further to it. The remainder of the growth, we haven't identified specific density targets within the designations, and that was highlighted by some of the provincial comments as well. So I don't know if you want to speak further to the individual designations.
Yeah, so within the PMTSA area, we follow the direction from the province, so that has been scheduled to a density of 150 persons and jobs per hectare. The province has just recently come up with new regulations specifying a specific FSIs within 200 and 200 to 500 radius from the actual transit station. So that was just very recently. So we are taking that into consideration, as well as their comments back to us into further defining that specific growth area.
Thank you. I have one more question. Another thing that was kind of pointed out through one of the meetings I had popped in, this is my last question, has to do with power needs. So one of the comments was that in the downtown area that I'm talking about, there's a development that's happening right now. They didn't realize there was not enough power in this area. And I am wondering, and the comment was that in 5 to 10 years, we won't have the power capacity that we need. So I'm wondering if there's been any information as far as whether these areas are going to meet those power demands.
Thank you for the question, through you, Mayor. We are having active conversations with Grimsby Power. They are on our circulation list. They've received the information, and we've set up a meeting to discuss the growth that's identified in the official plan, as well as the alignment with the work that they're doing to provide power to the community.
And sorry, will we get this information before this comes back to council?
Yes, we will be providing information. I don't know if it will be before it comes back to council, but it will be part of the recommendation report that comes to council that we've addressed this comment or this question.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Councillor Bradzi.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, through you. First off, thank you very much for your report tonight, but I'd like to start with two things. We got a positive one and a negative one, so I'll start with the positive one first. I just wanted to really point out that I really like the health center area public realm. I think that's a needed add in the official plan for Grimsby, given that we have a new hospital, a hospital quarter to drive an increase in medical businesses in Grimsby, and is a very good thing to have. So then I'll move on to my negative one. Convincingly, they're side by side in the report. Referring to Schedule E, the Protected Major Transit Station area. I just feel like the boundary that we've defined right now is an absolute minimal. The defined area from the province with the 800-meter circle would be a larger area than this, and we've included several built-up residential neighborhoods. If we're going to drive growth to the major transit station area, we've got to include lands that are actually developable. I'm just looking at the image on Schedule E. Less than 50% of that land there is actually developable. I know we can't request and draw in greenbelt areas. So my question to you is, what actions can we take to include more areas around the major transit station area? And then convincingly, we're also defining areas quite adjacent to the station as agricultural areas. So it's just a very conflicting message. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, So in the planning of an MTSA or PMTSA area, we usually look at what's already existing with what can be potentially come in. So while the boundaries get informed by the 800-meter radius, as well as the presence of environmental systems or agricultural systems or employment systems or lands, we then look at, and that's the new set of regulations that the province has released, at the intensity that has to be achieved within the lands that end up being within that boundary. So in order to achieve 150 persons and jobs per hectare. But when planning for the entire MTSA area, we do consider what has been already built. So that comes into supporting that number. Obviously, there is the fifth wheel lands, the east of the Casablanca intersection, that also come into a big component and player into how we build that density. And south of the railroad line, we are really, framed by the urban boundary. So it will have to be within that area that we have to achieve that intensity.
I just wanted to note the major transit station area in Durham. Like, we're not actually bound by the 800-meter circle. We can propose lines that extend an irregular shape outside of that circle to help us meet these numbers. There are lands that are to the east and west that would suit what I'm suggesting right now. So I just was wondering, I don't know if us as a council would like to revisit that, because I think this is something that is very crucial to us landing the station and the station not ending up next door in Lincoln.
Are any further speakers? Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So I do have some concerns. In the exact area that Councillor Bradzi was talking about, the TOD Village, the transition area, that can increase to a maximum of 6 stories. It's already an established neighborhood. I don't like to see established neighborhoods all of a sudden become gentle density areas that allow 6-story buildings. I'm pretty sure the residents who live in those areas don't want to see that as well. That is a concern that I have. Additionally, and sort of on the same thing, I like the neighborhood notes. I like the idea of having that little corner. In a couple of neighborhoods, I know residents have said if they have a little store, a little market close by, that's nice, and then having a little bit of, housing on top of that. I like that. However, I do not like the neighborhood corridors. In some of the areas, we're looking at Olive, Livingston, Highway 8, Kerman, these neighborhood corridors, we start putting a lot of density on there. Again, we don't have the parking, we don't have sidewalks. As soon as we increase all this density, it's a huge safety for pedestrians because we do not have infrastructure in place for this. So I have a concern with those, although I like the nodes. Again, another big concern is the downtown area. So I'm not a fan of the downtown neighborhood that is a minimum of 6 stories. It does not give a maximum where all the others give a maximum. So if we're allowing minimum of 6 stories and up to, I believe it's 12 because it's mid-rise, give or take. So we could have multiple 12-story buildings there we have proposed 300 units coming, we know that. And then we also have downtown innovation with maximum of 10 stories. And we're going to flood that area with cars and traffic and people. And we already have inadequate infrastructure when we talk about traffic on Clark Street, and it's downright dangerous already. And then we flood that area with more cars and people. I feel like that's not going to work. So I do not like how those neighborhoods now all of a sudden, they're small heritage neighborhoods, single houses, there's some apartments. Now all of a sudden it's going to be maximum density downtown. I don't like how we've transitioned that where, downtown village, 3 to 4 stories. Okay. That's not too bad. And some of these go right into old established neighborhoods. Like, we're looking at Kidd Ave, we're looking at Nels Boulevard. I think with all of these changes as a whole and as they all come through, we will not recognize our town. And I got to be honest, that scares me. And so there's a lot of things like that I don't like. I understand we have to plan for the density, but I feel like we have now put it in too many areas that we won't recognize our community anymore.
All right, I think that's all the questions. So we have moved by Councillor Corstangi, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolved that report PA 26-04 official plan public meeting information report dated February 23rd, 2026 be received. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, Alexa and Ute. Have a good evening. And Sean, thank you. Up next, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the council endorsement package? Councillor Vardy and Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that the council endorsement package for the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee dated February 10th, 2026 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the board minutes? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Corstangi. Resolved that the following board minutes be received. Property Standards Committee and Committee of Adjustment, January 20th, 2026. Grimsby Public Library Board, January 14th, 2026. Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee, February 10th, 2026. All in favor? That's carried. All right, right now we're going to take a 5-minute recess, so we will be back at 7:40. All right, welcome back. Can I have a mover and seconder to open the floor for discussion regarding regional governments in Niagara? And note, tonight, this will only be a motion to receive information. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor DeFlavio. All right, I'll start off. On February 19th, I received email correspondence from Regional Chair Bob Gale about potential governance changes. The feedback is due by Tuesday, March 3rd. Prior to last week, there had been no formal communication with the town on this matter. The topic is up for discussion at Regional Council this coming Thursday. Meetings from 4:30 to 6:30. The purpose of adding this item to the agenda for me is to listen to your feedback and for you to share your position. To be clear, there is no council resolution or decision to be put forward. This is a chance for you to share your position on the formal record. I'd like to begin by starting, I'm a lifelong resident of Grimsby and will not waver on supporting the community now. I recognize there is value for exploring efficiencies, specifically the upper tier level, but it is crucial decisions are made based on data and public consultation. Historical data shows amalgamation costs the taxpayer more, not less. I asked the province to release all relevant reports and data to the public to support transparent, informed dialogue. I also suggest that the province place the question of amalgamation on the 2026 municipal ballot across Niagara to truly demonstrate public consultation. Any implementation plan must be multi-year to allow for proper planning and continuity for the community. Grimsby is in a healthy financial position. Over the last 100 years, mayors and councils have served our taxpayers and responsibly managed finances. While I'm willing to work collaboratively with other levels of government, I do not support a path that impacts what makes Grimsby strong today. I stand with our residents and businesses to protect Grimsby's unique local identity. Questions? Councillor Charlois.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I think that was a great statement. If it's possible, I'd like us to endorse it as a council. So I don't know if we could do a recorded vote on that.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Do you want?
All right.
So why don't we just put these together?
Yeah, we'll make all the comments, and so we'll start with Councillor Vardy.
Okay, I've given this some thought. First of all, I think if we're talking the issue of amalgamation, we have to look at guiding principles, and they are, how will this be better for the citizens we serve? Will taxes be lower? Will there be more services, or will the existing services be improved? So that's one of the guiding principles, is how is this going to be better for everybody? And then there's, as the mayor has alluded to, there's the principles of fairness. Not all communities are equally wealthy. Grimsby has had good fiscal management, I'd say, for at least the last 6 years. Other communities are carrying much larger debt than we are. And we also own our hydro, which is a very valuable asset. So how do we protect this for Grimsby? Because it's, we don't want to be, taking everything that everybody has contributed to up until this point and give it to somebody else. Maybe that sounds selfish, but, as a community, we've built this up, and, we need to be cognizant of that. And then, finally, it's my belief that services are more responsive when they're delivered closer to the community, which leads me to the question of where is the glut or the bloat? And I'd say it's at the region. And this is something that we have to determine. And there's ways to determine this. There's ways that accountants have that can figure all of this out in an unbiased way. But, I'll give you an example. When planning authorities were transferred from the region to the municipalities, no financial or personnel resources followed. So, I heard that there were something like 72 people at the region in planning. We got those authorities. What did we get? We just got more work for the same amount of money. And it's not that we're not happy to get those authorities. That's great. But, it kind of tells you there's something amiss here. So if we're seriously going to talk about amalgamation, we really have to think about these guiding principles have to be addressed. And finally, I'd say we would need to reduce regional, if we did look at amalgamation and we were able to adequately meet those guiding principles, then we would need to make sure that regional services are reduced to only those that can't be delivered at the municipal level. There we go.
Councillor Charwa, you asked to speak, and I kind of cut you off after the resolution.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So you're next in line.
Okay. I didn't prepare anything, but I agree with everything that you had made in your statement, not for amalgamation. And for many of the same reasons that Councillor Vardy identified as well, we have a very strong reserve that, our community has accumulated over the years, and not all the other municipalities that we might merge with are in that same position. So it's pretty apparent that we would probably be drained. We would, our services would not be enhanced, they would be reduced, just for those reasons mostly. And also even just, the small local decisions would be completely overlooked. So for those reasons, I'm a definite no. As far as the, if we're talking about restructuring, I do support a smaller regional council. I did say this when our regional chair, Bob Gale, came to visit. I do support a mayor's only council. However, a smaller council, is also fine for me as well. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Frick, then Councillor DeFlavio on the list. Councillor Frick, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. This is the second time we've been through this. First time we were elected, I remember you and I going to the region to meet with Michael Fenn to deal with the same subject matter. However, I've read the letters, the 2 or 3 letters that I've found online that came from Gale and to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. My biggest fear is that decision is already made. We're just doing, this is just window dressing. That could be true, maybe it's not true. However, one way or the other, I mean, the points that he's made are quite valid. There is definitely an unsustainable tax increase across the region at all times. And of course, the region downloads most of those big tax bundles to us. There is a delay in decision making, no question about that. I'm reading some of this from his letter. And there is poor coordination on key transit priorities like transit, housing, services, and so on and so forth. I am concerned that he has given us a very short notice to come back with a rebuttal or a justification of anything. I think we need to be seen to be, not seen to be, but to be team players here. I think we need to look at the 1 city model. We need to look at the 4 city model. We need to look at any other potential model. Maybe it's 4 city models plus Grimsby. I don't know. But we haven't had a chance to look at the cost benefit analysis or the efficiencies. And I'm sure, if we do that, maybe we can justify Grimsby standing alone, or maybe we would come up with maybe we do need to look at amalgamation. I don't know. I mean, these are all questions that need to be asked. I'm a Grimsbyite or Grimsbonian, whichever. I came here to be a part of a Grimsby, and I'd like to think that it will continue. But however, if there's an opportunity out there to save taxpayers money and make things more efficiently for economic development or for housing and so on and so forth, then I think we need to be big enough and loud enough to kind of look at it and prove whether we need to go further than just a one city or a four city or just a Grimsby model, because these are all valid points. Who wants to save taxes? All of us. Who wants better decision making? All of us. Who wants transit and better housing? We all do. We want more efficiency in economic development. All those things. So if there's something in there to be had, then we need to identify it. But I believe we need to go back to them with our version of whether it should be a one city, a four city, or a five city in a Grimsby model. So I have a lot of notes here, but I could go on forever, but I will be probably just saying the same things over and over. But I think we need to formally go back at some point and give them our views based on cost-benefit analysis of how Grimsby can or cannot stand alone or would be a better town by consolidating. So there's my comments. I know I have a chance to come back for second comments, and I'll just go through my notes. But there's where I stand. I think we need to play ball, even though, as I say, I fear the decision is already made. So let's play ball and see what happens. Thank you.
Councillor Flavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, great comments by everybody. I want to start by saying that, discussion of reform, of governance reform is important, but whatever we do, it should serve residents, it should improve accountability, and it should deliver services effectively. And none of what we're talking about is that. We're just talking about elimination. Reforms only make sense if they enhance things and make things better. Otherwise, it's just consolidation. So I do support elimination of the current regional government structure. I would love to see the regional government eliminated completely, frankly. I don't support amalgamation, though, and I don't support it whether that's a one-city model or a four-city model or whatever that looks like. First question is, how do we support or discuss something that we don't really even understand? So I've heard lots of different rumors about what that four-city model might mean. I've heard things like lake to lake. Well, putting Wainfleet and Grimsby in the same municipality, under no circumstances does that make any sense whatsoever. Like there are no similarities. There's a massive geographic area. It's an hour away, 45 to 50 minutes. I worked in Wainfleet. There's no quick way to get there. There's no connection between those municipalities. So what does that mean? What does this four-city model look like? I think it's important that local municipalities remain independent. Regional scale services like water, wastewater, sanitary sewers, I think we can manage those through a public utility commission. That's something that's been done in other municipalities for decades. When I went to Western, there was a PUC there that managed those kinds of services. So that gives us efficiency where it matters, I think, without eroding the residents' voice. Representation is a really important part of all of this. Right now, every councillor at this table is tied to the community that we live in. Consolidation dilutes the voices, especially for smaller towns like Grimsby. I think it really dilutes the voices. We already see the problem in regional government where we can be outvoted by larger municipalities, where municipalities like St. Catharines have as many representations as 3 or 4 municipalities combined. Planning, heritage, and community character are best handled locally. We've seen lots of examples of that. We spoke about the Heritage Committee tonight. We talked about the official plan tonight. Those are things that are local. Those are not regional. Those are things that have always been local and should remain local. Niagara is a really diverse region. There are a lot of very different municipalities. I use the Wainfleet example, but every one of these municipalities is different. A lot larger geographic areas, for example, than Grimsby's. And you, Mayor, mentioned Grimsby's history. Grimsby has 200-plus years of history as Grimsby. We were named Grimsby by, Simcoe. That history matters. Our heritage matters. Our identity matters. And when you amalgamate municipalities, you eliminate Grimsby. I will never stop calling Beamsville, Beamsville. I'll never stop calling Smithville, Smithville. You can call it whatever you want on the surface, but it's Grimsby. And I don't like the idea of Grimsby being eliminated in any way, so I can't support that. So it's about continuity, civic pride, community identity, amalgamation risks erasing all that. I also want to talk about accessibility, because everybody at this table, when somebody calls me, they're not calling my office, they're calling my house. I talk to people from my living room, from my kitchen. If you call me on a Sunday, you're more likely to get a hold of me than if you call me on a Tuesday, because I might be, there's a lot more chances I'm at home to answer the phone. So, the responsiveness of local representation is important as well. It's something that you can't put a price on. I'm concerned about fairness and cost. We know that Grimsby pays more than other municipalities per capita towards the region. Our land area is smaller. We have far fewer regional roads. It's reasonable for our residents. It's not reasonable for our residents to subsidize infrastructure in neighboring communities. We have been doing that for years. This is going to be more of that. And fewer politicians doesn't mean less costs. So in the summertime, I met with my neighboring counterpart in Hamilton. When I met with them in their office provided by the City of Hamilton with their staff members present. I would wager that one councillor in the City of Hamilton costs double what this entire table costs from a cost perspective. I think that's an easy math to do. I mean, each one of us makes $20,000 a year, let's say, and the mayor makes a little bit more. That councillor and their staff probably costs $500,000 a year to fund. So that's double what this table costs. So it's not about the number of people, it's about the number of voices. Everybody here has a chance to speak tonight. Everybody represents their constituents. The last thing I want to talk about, Mayor, I know my time is up, is that the chair, Mr. Gale, was appointed for a few months at the end of a term. This is not the time. He can be reappointed in the next term, but this is not the time to make changes that will affect governance for decades in the last few months of a term. This is a huge discussion to be engaging in what would for any of us be a lame duck part of our sort of term. So there's a lot there, and I apologize for, I reiterated a lot of what people said. Everybody had some great comments. In no way do I support amalgamation, but if we're going to eliminate the region, count me in.
Councillor Bradzi.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan, through you. First off, I'd like to voice my support for the province and region under Chair Bob Gale's leadership, taking bold steps in tackling the decades-long conversation about a much-needed governance reform in the Niagara region. I fully support the four-city model, which I'd bet is the direction that's taken. I believe a smaller, reduced government will be more efficient and beneficial to the taxpayers of Grimsby and Niagara as a whole. This bold action is long overdue, and I am a strong supporter of less government, less taxes, reduced bureaucracy, and the end of part-time politicians in Niagara. I'd like to point out that this hasn't necessarily been sprung upon us at random, by any means. We've known about the provincial priority all term, starting when the province initiated a governance review back in 2023, which was the appropriate time to make the suggestions to the province of how we'd like to see this happen, as well as to begin to construct our own shared initiatives, which now the time seems to have passed. It is disappointing that as a councillor in Grimsby, I gained my insight on this from other mayors in the region, as well as the internet. I am constantly told that our town's leadership is not present at the negotiating table at this issue, and our absence has been what caused us to leave us in the dark with our heads in the sand. If Grimsby leadership is not present at the negotiating table on this issue, Grimsby will be what's on the table. This disappoints me as a councillor, but even more so as a taxpayer in Grimsby. Knowing reform would be coming, I've tabled motions this term regarding support for governance reform, which went unsupported. I also proposed our tourism strategy to work with our neighbors in Lincoln, which went unsupported, and was alone opposing dissolving our shared fire services with the town of Lincoln. The bottom line, we haven't given shared service initiatives of any kind any chance whatsoever at benefiting our taxpayers. nor have we given any signal to the province that we are willing to work together ourselves with our neighbors. And let's not forget, the town of Lincoln was there to help us out in 2022 when we needed both a temporary CAO and a planning director. These were all opportunities to save taxpayers by proactively striking our own rules of engagement with our neighboring municipalities instead of having them struck down upon us from above and now reacting to them when it may already be too late. Whether we like the direction or not, the Grimsby taxpayers deserve to be at the table. This is a decision that is bigger than us all as a Grimsby Council, and biting the hand that feeds us is a terrible mistake that history may remember as it results in the loss of the name Grimsby. I urge you, Mayor Jordan and CAO Kim, who's not here, to put your opposition aside and get to the negotiating table immediately in support of a four-city model with the province and region, and let's strike a good deal for the sake of Grimsby's name and the Grimsby taxpayer. Thank you.
Councillor Howe.
Through you, Mayor. Well, I was doing really well, but until that bit of stuff came out, Jacob, you are so far out to lunch on it, you don't know. Okay, point of call it whatever you want, but that was just. I've seen your amalgamations. I've seen your. Okay.
Council, yeah, just keep it on comments.
Yeah, I know.
Personal comment.
I've seen the amalgamations. I've seen what they've done. Don't believe what you read or hear. I can rattle them off, and you can just go right to Hamilton and talk to anybody in Hamilton that's been around for more than about $1.50 about the amalgamation and how it worked out for them. Go down the road to Chatham, talk to Chatham Kent, and say, hey, guys, how did that amalgamation go that they said was going to save you all kinds of money and you're going to do this and that? Go to Ottawa. Talking to a person on the weekend in Ottawa, and there is still an unsettled part of Ottawa and question that forced amalgamation that they got nothing out of. Sudbury, they got nothing out of it. The amalgamations have spread out to Halifax. Did you know that? And the same group of people that were writing up the stuff in Ontario did in Halifax was just a complete gong show. And you talk to somebody out there, not somebody, not one, but a number of them. It doesn't work like they say it will. It's like amalgamation, mergers and acquisitions. You know, we hear about those. What happens in a merger and acquisition? Which basically this is what they're going to become because they've got a couple of bobbleheads hanging around. But, they come in and there's a reason for it. Oh, there's some money there, okay? And then they peel off the stuff that doesn't make money. And it quickly gets diluted and destroyed. Most companies that do change radically. And if you want Grimsby to change, you go right ahead. I won't do it. Councillor Frake is right. There's probably already set. They've made up their minds. There's no table. If you think there's going to be a friendly little table, no. It'll be gloves off. And I'm not sure that you know how to do that. Okay, gloves off, that's what it'll have to be. And you talk about, and we talked about the municipal politicians and the quantities, and you're right. You know, you go into Hamilton and they got somebody to help them. You go to any place, you drop the local politician, that's just smoke and mirrors and bull that comes out of people that are trying to sell you something that ain't worth buying. And the one last thing the one thing that I saw coming out of the region is in how they made their budget. And what did they cut? They cut a DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion intern. They cut that job. Now there is a really forward-thinking place. So, no, Councillor Barazzi, I am going to really disagree with you, and hopefully you'll see the way sometime, but don't buy what other people are selling you.
Councillor Corstin.
Thank you, through Chair. I agree with a lot of my co-councillors. I think that, we need more data, and this is a decision that needs to take time. It can't just be rushed through. I am also disappointed that I read about this online in the media, but I also did see a copy of the letter sent to the mayors that was dated, I think, February 5th, and Mr. Gale was here
Well,
not that long
just a
ago.
clarification.
Yeah.
I received that letter from Gail at 11:30 on the 19th. It was a release to CKTB before noon. And there's been a history of things being released by certain councillors in the past. And let's just say the region's where it's at, from 0% tax increases from 2014 to 2018. And one of the drivers of those 0% tax increases then is the regional chair today.
Thank you for that. I wasn't insinuating that you held it back, to be honest with you. I just meant that he was here, and if that was written on the 5th, and I mean, Councillor Bradley did ask about amalgamation, and that letter was not talked about. So, as a municipal councillor, that's really hard. And then, it's in the news and residents are asking, residents are upset, these things are circulating. So that puts us in a difficult position. But regardless, I think going to part-time councillors, I do agree with Councillor DeFlavio that when you take one full-time, when you reduce council and you have less councillors, but full-time councillors, it costs a lot more. And so you're going to be paying more than what you're paying us now. And what you lose is your identity at the table. A resident should see themselves at this table, and they see that through us because we have such a diverse council, and I think that's one of our great strengths. And I think you lose that when you lose voices. And when you don't have 9 people to go to and 9 people to fight. The other thing is residents, we voted for this. Ward boundaries came up, council came up. This is democracy. This is what Grimsby wanted. This is why we have the amount we do. Beamsville just did it as well. So to remove the residents' voice and their democracy, I think is a problem as well. I absolutely agree with Councillor Vardy, and I'd like to see the data on duplicate jobs and duplicate services from the region that, what I hear most from residents is not level of governance, it's taxes. It's the cost. It's the cost of the services. And if we are paying for duplicate services, we can give residents what they want if we can eliminate some of that. So I think, when this is talked about, if a review of not just governance, but, services, duplicate services, and where money probably could be saved, I think would be beneficial.
Councillor Vardy.
I would just like to add, I think we're all of the opinion that we've not been well served by their region. And I think that we're all agree that we neither need nor want regional governance. However, in my opinion, and as you've said, we do not have the data to make any kind of informed decision about amalgamation. So before we go off kind of half-cocked about this, we need to do our homework. So I'm not going to say I'm for or against it, but as I said, I think we all agree we don't need the region. And I think we have to see how this is going to benefit everybody, because I think we're paying for a lot of things that we're not getting.
Councillor Sharwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Regardless, even if this was a good idea, this is something that should never happen at the end of a term. This is something that is, potentially when there's a chair that is elected rather than appointment to, and in a new council. This is a discussion. I don't even want information at this point anymore. This is totally inappropriate to bring this on to a council at the end of the term. So I don't know if that's something we add, but I agree with most of my fellow councillors' comments.
It's Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Through you, I'd just like to, on the closing note, just say I think that we need to be prepared to act quickly on this matter. I know I definitely agree with my colleagues around the Horseshoe. It would be very nice to collect a lot more data on this issue, but I think we really need to be prepared to act immediately on this, because I could see that being a potential reality. Thank you.
Evidence-based decision-making, okay? We use it in healthcare, we use it in every other area. And when you don't use evidence-based decision-making, that's when you get things screwed up.
Yeah, so we're just going to receive it right now. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolve the discussion about regional governance in Niagara be received for information. All in favor? That's carried.
Do you want to say you're going to submit a statement?
Yes, tomorrow I plan to submit a statement, and I'll take into consideration of everything that was spoken here. And so that'll be something that we can look forward to. I want to really attend the meeting on Thursday, and because there's only the 12 mayors have seen this email officially, and none of the regional councilors have even had the opportunity to speak on it. So we have a 2-hour meeting. Interestingly enough, there's no delegations allowed in that meeting. That was at the call of the chair. But we'll see on Thursday, and we'll probably have a little bit more information for Friday morning. But I want to release something before that. So, all right, our next council meeting is scheduled for March 9th, 2026, with a revised time of 5:30 p.m. Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councillor Howe, seconded by Councillor Charwa. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw 26-10, and that same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Good evening, everyone. Have a good evening. Meeting is adjourned. Good night.